freaking first cut. Golly.
Hello, YouTube. Time to mega preview pod this Sanderson Farms Championship. A little bit of storylines. We've got outright bets. We've got matchups. We got lots of stuff. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll get started right now. Welcome to the First Cup Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, joined today first by Patrick McDonald. Patrick, good to see you. And for those who are watching on YouTube, are getting one of the great green screen backdrops of all time.
Yeah, the belly hurt around the world. That's what I'm hearing people are calling it. But Rick, Mark, this is our first show together. Can't wait for it. I know you were on the grounds there at Quill Hollow, and excited to talk about the Sanderson.
Yeah, Mark Immelman rounds out our crew for today. Mark, good to see you. You're home. You're trying to get back into the swing of things, it seems.
Yeah, good to be seen. Thanks, man. It was a great week last week. Patrick, nice to see you. I'm trying to unthink that image of that dude behind you right now, so I appreciate you very much, man.
Yeah, we won't spoil it fully. Go watch the YouTube version of this. See what Patrick is working with on his backdrop there. And while you're on the internet, while you're clicking around looking for things to do, looking for things to spend your money on, why don't you spend it on some First Cut merch? Because for the rest of the year, we're offering 20% off all that sweet First Cut merch. It's hats, it's t-shirts, it's sweatshirts, it's stickers, it's etched glasses. That's my favorite. All that fun stuff. All you need to do is drop the promo code FirstCut20 at checkout. There's a link in the description, both on the audio and video versions of this podcast. And if you really need a QR code, Jacob is showing it on YouTube right now. That'll get you access to all that sweet merch for the rest of the year. Gentlemen, we have not yet debriefed with either of you from last week's President's Cup. And Mark, you were boots on the ground. So let's head in your direction. First, obviously a strong connection to that international team. The weekend was a lot better than the first 2 days of the event. Yes, a nice rally from the internationals on the weekend.
Yeah, it was. Look, I'll be honest with you. The feeling inside of the camp and the locker room leading in, despite being outmanned, was a whole lot of confidence on the international side. And they were just roundly outplayed and on the first couple of days, but it really wasn't outplayed. I would say it was more like they were just outputted, or the internationals just didn't make enough putts. And it occurred. I was aware of this. I was on the international feed for the world feed for the television show, and this was sort of, it was clear to me calling it, being on the ground. But then when my family, my wife, my 2 kids arrived in town on a Friday evening, we're having just a quiet dinner, just the 4 of us. And my youngest, Sophia, says to me, she goes, "They didn't putt very well." And I was like, yeah. And then she says to me, she goes, "You have to practice putting because putting can help you save strokes." And I was like, "You're 10, and clearly I'm talking too loud because you're getting this stuff."
I was going to say, she's definitely an Immelman. Yeah.
So she's on point, and Trevor said the same thing. And then he challenged them on the weekend. Well, look, he challenged them the whole week to play free, and on the weekend just to say, "Hey, go and let it be." And they were good on Saturday. They really were. Truth is, they never really played the front nine very well, but for some reason played the back excellent. And then, made a few clutch putts, hit a few clutch shots, and we're back in it. And then at one stage, I got to tell you, Sunday afternoon, Quail Hollow, which was very loud, got very quiet. And I remember saying to my driver, Ralph, we'd finished the morning match that I was covering. I was on Spieth and Cam Davis. And let me tell you, Spieth he's a banshee, that boy. He's a nutcase. Anyway, the way he played was unreal. We were there waiting for Tom Kim and Max Homer on the 10th hole. I'd had a quick break, and I looked at Ralph, and he looked at me, and he said, "Is it very quiet, or is it just me?" And I was like, "It's quiet." And we looked over the water, and you could see a big leaderboard that just had a whole bunch of gold on it. And all of a sudden, it was like, whoa, hold on a second. And then obviously the Americans showed their class to finish well. But in the end, in as much as what is disappointing, I think it was a fantastic event. And it was electric. The atmosphere out there was great.
Yeah, Quail Hollow played awesome. It was kind of firm and fast, and made some guys look a little bit silly. But Patrick, that sentiment of, the internationals were obviously outmanned in this. We knew that, odds makers knew that it was going to be hard enough to try to beat the Americans on American soil, but Mark's right. The internationals didn't make a lot of putts early in this event. They got off to seemingly bad starts, or at least the Americans got off to fast starts every single match, almost. I mean, it was just an uphill battle that almost got more uphill after the front nine every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And I really look back to that 8-2 deficit and the 15th hole in particular. You had 3 American balls that bounced out of the creek there on 18. And, JT and Jordan win that hole over Sungjae and Corey Connors. You had Max and Finau make an all-class par there to tie the hole with Taylor Pendrith, where, that one went to the end as well. And then Spieth, full on Spiethian there the next day, made a par, bouncing it out of the creek too. And you look at it, it's 8-2 after 2 days. If those 3 balls, typically when balls go into the water, they stay in the water. And if those balls stay in the water, it could have been maybe 6-4 potentially, if it could have flipped that way. And from there, anything could have happened, especially with how the internationals played over the weekend. It was really commendable in my opinion. And look, they had talent against them, depth, continuity, the crowd, the course. And I think Trevor and what he did with the team was amazing. And coming off the 16-14 defeat at Royal Melbourne, people probably thought this might have been a step back, but for the internationals. But I think it's the exact opposite. I think they're going to be steamrolling into Canada, and they're going to take all the confidence from this defeat.
Patrick, I'm glad you said that about Trevor, and I must commend him because, all the pundits were calling for Adam Scott's head after 2 rounds, maybe even after the first round when he and Hideki were dusted. I mean, it was one-way traffic, 6 and 5, and Adam just looked flat. He was fighting a hook off the tee. He and Hideki were supposed to be kind of they were the front of the charge there on Thursday, and they just got smashed. And it was a statement victory for the Americans. But Trevor remained true to their plan, and he remained true to Adam. And it was well-founded in the end because, Adam and Hideki came through with what was, I think, maybe the first point on Saturday in the morning foursomes. And when that happened, you could see how the rest of the team sort of got in behind them because you had essentially the Koreans playing well, and that was about it. And Munoz was great. We knew he would be. Christian Besaidnot was good. But I commend Trevor for having stuck with Hideki and Adam because in the end, it worked out well. I feel like Hideki's half on Sunday afternoon could have been a win, but that was despite his best stuff, and Adam hung in there too. I can't remember the result, but it speaks to the trust that Trevor had in his team, and he kept on talking about it. And I'm sure a bunch of folks were like, "Yeah, whatever," but it was well founded in the end, and it's easy to panic in situations like that, but it spoke to Trevor's leadership to be able to go, I believe in these guys. This is our plan. We're sticking to it. And he made minor changes, but there was nothing wholesale after that big deficit that they found themselves in.
And just to piggyback off that, coming outside looking in, you're probably not going to win if Adam Scott and Hideki Matsuyama aren't playing well. So you got to put them out every session because those are your guys. And yeah, he had to stick with them.
Kind of final thoughts here before we move on to Sanderson Farms, Mark. I think the idea around the international team is not necessarily this one competition or the competition that we had in Australia or the one that we're going to get in 2 years. It's this brand building. It's this team building. It's this year over year philosophy that you get these guys to be able to buy into from all over the globe. And you build this step by step, not just look at a single year individually as the results.
Yeah, certainly. And also it was this brand and this concept that Captain Ernie Els built for Royal Melbourne a few years ago, where it was the shield. And instead of coming in there behind your Korean flag or your Australian flag or your Canadian or Japanese, whatever you were, it was like it was for the shield. And you heard the team saying it all the time. The media watch phrase was for the cup, for country and for the cup. And the internationals, every single one of them were like, we're doing it for the shield. And it became, it started to gain traction with Ernie. it gained a whole heap of traction here last week in this current squad. And you feel like they now have an identity and they have something that they can all play for. It's not like they're all just coming together for a week and then dispersing again. They are for real. And we started to see it. I think I'd shared it, even as early as the RBC Heritage, where back then, I mean, sadly they left, and Cam Smith and Joaquin Neiman and Sungjae, I think, were all in a group, and they all were using President's Cup International Shield towels, and they were using head covers and yardage book covers. Heck, I saw Cam Smith at the Tour Championship just a few weeks before the President's Cup with an International Shield yardage book cover in his back pocket. I sent it to you guys.
Yep.
And so you can see this identity being built, and I feel like that is going to galvanize them even further as they lead into cups down the way. Now, look, that doesn't mean they're going to win, because the Americans are just so strong, but they certainly are. They're going to be competitive, and it's not going to be the blowout that everyone was expecting all of the time.
Yeah, you can find those shields all year long across towels and yardage books and everything else that Mark is referencing there. This week, though, Jackson, Mississippi, Sam Burns, Patrick, going to go straight from Quail Hollow to try to defend his crown. We'll see. Maybe he's a little bit hungover. Maybe he's got a couple of days to figure it out. We'll see. But Sam Burns, the headliner here in Jackson.
Yeah, defending champ, and we kind of saw it last year post Ryder Cup with Sergio Garcia. Obviously not the celebrations for the Europeans, but coming from the Ryder Cup to this event, it's tough. And if Sam Burns was hanging out with Kisner, Homa, JT a lot that night, I mean, he could be coming in a bit late, a bit fuzzy, hungover, like you said. And past that, it's a fantastic opportunity for some of these young guys. I mean, we harped on it for the Fortinet Championship. Taylor Montgomery kind of came through there, finished third. He's kind of a darling among people talking about Korn Ferry Tour graduates. And yeah, it's a great opportunity for these young guys. We saw it last year with Thigala holding the 54-hole lead. Cameron Young was there. Zalatoris was in the mix as well. So I'm looking forward to it, even though it's a bit of a weak field. It's kind of those vintage swing season events, but it's a fun course, 4 par 5s that play hard, a drivable par 4 towards the end, and should hopefully be some good action.
Opportunity is the name of the game. Second event of the new season, Mark. Believe it or not, we're already into the new season. We're accumulating FedEx Cup points. We saw the favorite, and we saw Max Homa successfully defend in Napa. Sam Burns gets a chance to make it 2 for 2.
Yeah, he does. And even though this is down in Mississippi, there's many elements to this golf course, the Jackson Country Club, that are similar to Quail. First off, speeds of greens. Now, these ones down there are not as undulating as what Quail Hollow was, but these surfaces, and you talk to all of the players, they will say that if they're to name putting greens throughout the year in tournaments, they would certainly have this golf course in their top 5 for quality and for speed and for trueness of line. So someone like a Sam Burns, even though he's hungover, he putted fat. That guy filled it up from all over the 704 area code last week at the President's Cup. And you're going to find guys who are like that thrive. I mean, the first time this event was out, I remember Ryan Armour kind of outgunning the big hitters with just a flat stick that was off the charts. Peter Malnati was the same thing. Of late, you've seen the power guys sort of come to the fore a little bit, but still, it's a really good golf course, and it's a place where you find the usual suspects thrive. Those guys that like Bermuda grass, can judge flower lies, drive the ball well around here, but in the end, if you can sort of manage it from the rough a little bit, then putt well, you got a chance. The only circumstance that might throw a wrinkle into it all, I feel like, is this Hurricane Ian and what that does for the rainfall that Mississippi may take. I don't know if they're going to dodge some of it or not, but if that place gets a little soft, then you have to hand the advantage to the longer guys.
I was looking at the tracker just a few minutes ago to see if Jackson was in the path. I'll have to keep digging there, but we're going to turn our attention to some names and some guys that we think can play well this week at the Country Club of Jackson. We're going to give out some bets, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. The Moneymaker Challenge. Mark, I believe this is your first experience with this in the new season. This was a defense against Kyle Porter, and we get to now structure our wagers a little bit differently. How did you like filling this one out this week?
It was fun. I'll be honest with you. I'm dating myself and showing my ignorance. I called up Jacob this morning and I was like, I got one or two dumb questions. What is this and what is that? And he sort of giggled at me and gave me the response. But I like it. I like going down there to find a bet and find something you can lay a few shekels on. So I enjoyed trying to find worthwhile bets this morning.
Yeah, this is much more structured. So we get 100 little nuggets or dollars or units or whatever you want to call them to go over to our friends at Caesars Sportsbook. We've got to put 50 of them on a matchup, 30 on any finishing position that we want, and then 2 separate outright wagers. Who's going to actually win the golf tournament for 10 each? Patrick, you are our veteran here. You were a part of the first edition of this. It's just one of one.
Old timer.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna start with your matchup for 50 of your nuggets. Where are you going here?
First show with Mark, and we're already going head to head against each other.
I saw that.
Moving forward, we got to consolidate against Coach here. We'll be better moving forward, but I really love Wyndham Clark this week. Name of the game at Jackson, in my mind, is hit it far and make a lot of putts, and that is Wyndham Clark's MO to a T. He's gained strokes off the tee in 10 straight. I love the course fit for him, and look, English, I know he's coming off that top 10 finish at the Fortinet Championship. I'm not completely sold on him being 100% back from that injury. The irons have been pretty poor. I think he's only gained strokes on approach once since his comeback. So I'll lay the -120 with Clark over English.
Yeah, right out of the gate, Patrick takes Wyndham Clark over Harris English, and Mark battles that with a Harris English over Wyndham Clark. Mark, head to head.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that Patrick knows more than me, but I know English pretty well. And I will say this: in Jackson, Mississippi, the way the golf course sets up, you always got to give a little bit of an edge to the guys who grew up in the South. That's why I'm liking Davis Riley for an outright. But I've spoken with Harris English's golf instructor here recently, and he says Harris is healthy, he's strong, and the thing about Harris, he's long, not like elite long, but he's long enough. And to me, he rolls the ball so purely, and you've seen him at places like Memphis, at the TPC Southwind and those sorts of golf courses, play very, very well. So I feel like it's time for Harris to sort of get back in the saddle to where he was just a couple seasons ago prior to the injury and start playing his best stuff. And what better place to be down in the Southeast and in conditions that are very similar to where he lives and plays most of his golf down there in Sea Island.
The Harris English side of this is the even money side, +100. Clark over English -120. So Wyndham a small favorite there. I'm avoiding any of the drama. I'm just going to go with Gary Woodland over Alex Smalley. Speaking of guys that seem to be kind of back and in form, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Gary Woodland as of late. I think we're getting at least a little bit closer to some of the vintage versions of himself. So again, I'll take Woodland -110 over Alex Smalley for my $50 matchup. Mark, we'll bounce this one right back to you here. So this finishing position, you could do anything you wanted. Top 5, top 10, top 20, top 40, and then you choose the golfer. Where did you go here in terms of finishing positions?
Well, first off, just to put a capper on my English over Clark bet. Look, I love Wyndham. He and I wear the same apparel, Mark Wahlberg's Municipal Clothing. But Wyndham tends a little inconsistent. And so I'm going with consistency over a little inconsistency there. And speaking of consistency for a top 20, Adam Long, I mean, this guy's camping out inside the top 25, inside the top 20, just about every week he plays. He's got a really consistent game. He played solidly last week out. I texted him just the other day, and he's like, I'm playing Jackson, then I got Vegas off. So he sounded fresh, and he sounded well, and he's that sort of a guy that is never going to blow your hair back if you watch him play, but he's just never out of the game. He plays from the fairway. He's a really consistent ball striker, and he constructs rounds well. And so as a result, he never makes any real dumb errors. And in this place, I know it might be a bit of a birdie bonanza, but you know what? You have to make fewer birdies if you make fewer bogeys. And Adam Long's that kind of a guy. And he's a top 20 candidate. And I really like that number on him.
Yeah, plus 330 for Adam Long to finish on the first 2 pages of the leaderboard. Tell Mark Wahlberg to send us a check for that that free ad you just gave him there, Mark. Where we all want boxes of gear in our direction, I think. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. I'm going with Davis Thompson here. So for me, I loved what I saw in Napa, gained across the board. I'm asking him to finish inside the top 20 at plus 330. Patrick, you have opted. Wow, you've opted for a South African here.
Yeah, trying to make amends for this Clark versus English battle we're going through. So I got Fratelli in the mix, got Burmeister in the mix as well. But yeah, like Clark, I love the fit for Fratelli. T6 here in 2020. He's one of these guys who has chased distance, and it's worked for him somewhat, but definitely inconsistent. Just hoping to get the upside week that we know we can get from him. At one point last year, he made 10 straight cuts in a row. Napa might have been a little bit ugly, but I like him on these surfaces at this course. So 5-1 on a top 20 for a player like Dylan Fratelli, I'm more than comfortable with.
If FedEx Cup points were awarded based on gym videos on Instagram, Dylan Fratelli would be number 1 in the FedEx Cup standings, Mark. Every time I see that guy on Instagram, he's in the gym.
He is amazing. And the distance you guys speak of is palpable. I actually asked him about it because when Dylan was a young man, he was sort of scrawny a little bit and then went off to Austin, played golf there at the University of Texas, and then came out on tour and all of a sudden just got longer and stronger. And he's a very cerebral sort. And now the guy in the gym he's a beast, man. He really is. And every time I see him, he seems to be more and more cut. So I want to ask him what the end goal is because it appears that he's not slowing down anytime soon.
Iron Man might be the end goal for him. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Okay. Patrick, let's go back to you here. I want both of your outrights, and the way that we've structured this, it's $10 on each of them. So give me your 2 golfers that you would like to see win this golf tournament.
Yeah, back to the well with Wyndham Clark. I know Mark, when he was talking about Adam Long, said he doesn't make many dumb mistakes. Unfortunately, with me in betting, I typically do. And this could be one of those weeks where I'm going to the Wyndham Clark well a lot. And yeah, like I said, I love the statistical fit that he has. He contended at a somewhat regular basis last year. He was there in Canada, there in Detroit. So back end of the summer, he was playing some good golf. And then Dean Burmeister, staple on the DP World Tour, wins a ton in South Africa as well. He's another long hitter. You could probably see the theme of my picks thus far, and kind of ran through the Korn Ferry Tour playoffs there. Played well in Boise, played well at the championship as well. So like Clark, like Fratelli, I think it's a great fit for Dean, and 50-1 is a price I can get behind.
Yeah, Patrick, living in the meat of this betting board. Wyndham Clark 45-1, Dean Burmeister 50-1. Mark, you have already teased Davis Riley at 40-1. It's him for one of your outrights, and who else do we have?
Yeah, and just to Dean Burmeister, Burmy is a fantastic pick here, and I really considered him. But the only reason why I averted my eyes some was he had to go back to South Africa for a passport wrangle for some reason, something about the visas. So he's been abroad. It's a big trip over here, so I'm wondering how he's going to be, sort of fatigue wise and jet lag wise. But that boy, he can go, man, and I would put money on him at any time. I'm going for Davis Riley. He grew up just down the road. He's won a number of high school events at this place, has talked about his love affair with it. A few of the holes, I think it's like 7 or 8 of them, they just peel from left to right a little bit. That's his preferred ball flight. And I know he didn't finish the season as he would have wanted, but Davis Riley's legit, man. And you have to feel like with all of the game, there's a comfort level going back to Mississippi and town that he's from. So I think if there was sort of converging trends here and a confluence of good things, playing at home for a guy who played very well last season, I think is a good one. So I'm going for Davis and Sahith. I mean, he's becoming a perennial contender. He really, truly is, and was a part of the storyline. You guys talked about it here last year, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets the job done.
Davis Riley lost in a playoff to Sam Burns at the Valspar last year. Maybe he can get a little revenge and spoil Sam Burns'
I'm buying what you're selling.
Title defense here. Right. Let's get back at him. I hope not, because I've got Sam Burns as one of my outrights. We'll talk about that. Emiliano Grillo as well. Gentlemen, we have never had a time outside of Tiger Woods where the favorites have won as frequently as the last 16 events on the PGA Tour. 9 of those winners were 20-1 or shorter. The favorites have piled these things up. I'm going to use one of my outrights and say, if that trend continues, give me the guy who's head and shoulders better than everybody else in Sam Burns. And then Emiliano Grillo, I'm certainly not ready to give up on. I will be saying his name a lot in coming weeks and months, as long as he continues to putt the way that he is. 6 straight events in which he's gained strokes with the putter. That was by far the weakest part of his game. Now 35-1 feels like he's on the verge of something. So I'll go Sam Burns at 10 and Emiliano Grillo mark at 35-1.
Wait a second. Wait. Allow me to take a breath.
Sure.
So you actually going with a putter instead of trying to feed me the strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained approach. What's the stuff you're always talking about?
Yeah.
Bless you, Rick, for the maturation you've undergone here over our brief off season.
Thank you. It's evolution. I'm trying to just constantly get better, trying to constantly evolve. So let me recap these quickly here. Our 50 matchups: Woodland over Smalley, Clark over English, English over Clark. Finishing positions: Davis Thompson, top 20. Dylan Fratelli, top 20. Adam Long, top 20. Outrights: I'm going with Sam Burns and Emiliano Grillo. Patrick's going with Wyndham Clark and Dean Burmeister. Mark is going with Sahith Tagala and Davis Riley. Those are the wagers that we've made over at Caesars Sportsbook as part of our Money Maker Challenge. That leaves us with one final thing to do, gentlemen, and that is our money ball. So, Mark, you have not seen this yet. I will explain everything about it after a quick word from our partners. And we're back. As if it wasn't enough, Mark, to get 50 on a matchup, 30 on a finishing position, 10 and 10 on 2 outrights. Jacob said, here's another 50, no constraints. Go out there and put it on anything you want, and we'll keep track of it. So, Mark, why don't you lead us off here with your money ball, your best bet?
I'm hoping Jacob's going to put there we go. Righty-ho. I'm going with a guy who grew up in South Alabama, Robbie Shelton. He was a star when he was at the University of Alabama. Came out, played a season on tour. Kind of think got caught up on the wash a little bit. Lost his card. Went back to the Corn Ferry Tour. Won down there. Now he's back on tour, and he's in a place he's very comfortable at. And I think at a number like plus 140. For him to get inside the top 40, I don't want to say this is a guarantee because there's no guarantees in golf. But if Robbie Shelton is halfway healthy, if he's halfway hitting it in the center of the club face, I think that is an absolute given. You can take that one to the bank. So give me Shelton for a top 40, plus 140. And if I'd looked deeper, I might even have gone top 20 because he's that good and he has that much game.
Over his last 11 starts across the Corn Ferry and the PGA Tour, Robbie Shelton has 8 top 28 finishes. 2 of them are wins. 1 of them is a runner-up. So Mark is asking Robbie Shelton to finish inside the top 40.
Make the cut. Come on, just make the cut for me, Robbie.
At plus 140. I'm also offended by this graphic. For future graphics, Jacob, we got to sort this correctly. This is a random sorting. We got to get the guy who's got the most profit, or maybe the guy with the biggest return, or the best win percent. That's got to be on top. So that we have this
I'm with
accurately sorted. We'll have to work on that. Patrick,
but hold on. Now you know what it's like, right? Because remember last year when there was this one and done thing, and the more I led, the more you guys were trying to stack the odds against me and stuff.
Yeah.
No, it feels a little bit, but I'm with you. Yeah, you belong on the top of that.
Yeah,
pile.
This would be like if the standings of the one and done was just in random order and Mark's name was in 5th or something. It would be outrageous.
It would. Terrible.
Thank you. Patrick, you've gotten freaky with your $50. You have not only taken 1 matchup, you've taken 2, you've parlayed them together, and you got a plus 224 on it. What are we looking at?
I'm still looking at this graphic. I feel like Coach might be in cahoots with Jacob.
I agree.
This is in last place.
This is an inside job for sure.
He's up top. And meanwhile, me, 3% return this day and age. Come on, forget about it.
You can't beat that.
But yeah, Clark over English. Like I said, it's either going to make or break my week. And then I wanted some Montgomery exposure, and he's minus 130 over Bradley. Like we said, he's long off the tee, played great in Napa, and Bradley to end his 22 season was kind of suspect with his irons a little bit. And if Keegan Bradley's not hitting his irons well, it could be a short week for him. So I really like those two together at plus 224, and hopefully bump that profit of $6 up a little bit.
Here is what Patrick has done. Wyndham Clark was minus 120 over Harris English, and Taylor Montgomery minus 130, right, Patrick?
Correct.
Over Keegan Bradley. He has parlayed them together, and he has gotten plus 224 on both of those coming through. It is also, it goes without mentioning that you have allocated at least 110 of your 150 in some form or fashion on Wyndham Clark.
When he wins this week, I mean, next week is going to be an unbelievable episode because, I mean, it's a lock, I think.
You know what I appreciate about you, Patrick? You know Kyle Porter well, right? Kyle has got this money, and he just tosses stuff at everybody, and then comes up with the most random bet you could ever imagine, and puts like 55 cents on there, and then that thing hits, and then he wins. So I appreciate your consistency in your approach here and how you're backing Wyndham Clark. Good on you, man.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
I have opted, like Mark, to live in that top 40 market. I like it. Yeah, your guy, he makes the cut. He plays well on the week. You're not asking him to do all that much, and you can still get a decent little return. My guy, Will Gordon, I think he might be back. I think Will Gordon is back. Last 6 starts, 2 top 5s, a win. Hasn't finished worse than 46th, played well at the Fortinet, gained 6 strokes between the 2 ball striking categories. I think Will Gordon's back. I'm asking him to finish like 38th to cash me my plus 160.
Are we talking like Texas football back or back?
Texas, listen, I don't need him to be back. I don't need him to win or finish this. I just need him to be like kind of back.
Okay.
Hey, same golf swing instructor as Harris English in Justin Parsons. And Justin speaks of Will Gordon like he hung the moon. Justin sees a whole lot more in Will than I do, but Will is good. And I feel like, Rick, like my bet, that's one of those safeties that you can almost take to the bank over there.
Also helps that, oh no, I had my guys confused. I thought Will Gordon finished 25th here last year. He did not. So I'm going to just move on from that comment. So just to recap, our best bets. I'm taking Will Gordon top 40 plus 160. Mark is taking Robbie Shelton top 40 plus 140. Patrick has parlayed Wyndham Clark over Harris English with Taylor Montgomery over Keegan Bradley, and he has gotten plus 224 on that. Whew. Okay, gentlemen. That was a very successful mega preview pod of the Sanderson Farms Championship. Anything else that we need to discuss before we get out of here?
Yes, you guys need to teach me where on the website I can find how to parlay games, because I thought that was cool, and I need to try that, please.
We will show you how to do that.
It's a slippery slope, Mark. I'll tell you that much.
Mark is going to come back next week with a 9-leg parlay that pays out $1 million to 1 or whatever. It's a slippery slope, Mark, for sure.
I first got to get some dollars in the bank, and then once I got that, then you can play with house money, right? I learned that from you, Rick.
That's right. Get out front, and then get a little crazy after that. All right, gents. Absolute pleasure. We will be back later in the week. Of course, producer Jacob does all the hard work behind the scenes. You can find Patrick McDonald on Twitter at amateur status, and you can find Mark at Mark_Immelman. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.